All right, Module 1 is all about this funnel architecture and a retargeting framework. And what we're going to do is we're just going to spend a little bit of time understanding these segments. And again, you may know some of this, but please don't skip it. This won't be a very long introduction. I just want you to understand this framework of how to think through this. That is the most important part. It's not about the ad platforms. It is not about, this small tweak or this small hack. What a funnel is ultimately understanding how to think about this. And ultimately, retargeting is thinking about it in a completely reverse direction. We're not thinking about the top down, we're thinking about the bottom up. So we're starting with what is the thing that we're trying to do? What is the thing right before we get somebody to take that action? And so let's walk through this. This won't take long, but I do want to give you kind of an understanding of how to think about this. So what we're going to do is we're understanding a funnel acquisition architecture. Now, when I say acquisition, I mean that there's different parts to a funnel. So once you've acquired an opt-in or acquired a lead, there might be time before, like if it's a lead-based business, there might be time before that lead actually turns into a customer. In e-commerce, you're acquiring a new customer. There's upsells. There's, in lead-based businesses, it could be referrals. So I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just talking about this funnel. They see an ad, they come to your website, they opt in or they buy. That's kind of this acquisition that I'm talking about. Now, what would be an important thing for you to do is actually understand what are the exact steps for somebody to convert. Now, if you don't know what a conversion is what gives you money or what leads to getting you money. If it's booking a phone call, it's requesting a quote, if it's filling out a form, if it's an opt-in, if it is a download to free trial in e-commerce, it would be a purchase. So that is what a conversion is, but you need to know the steps of what happens and what occurs in that. And so we do have a funnel exercise to do this that I'm going to be coming your way. But this is kind of typically how a funnel works, right? So we have a brand awareness, which is typically your content or people talking about you or you're advertising somewhere. And then that's sort of kind of on the internet somewhere. But this top of funnel is once somebody has engaged with your brand and they visited your website, maybe one time, they learn a little bit more about your offer, what you're selling, and they potentially leave. But if they come down, and they're checking out a little bit more about you. Maybe they've navigated to a page on your website where there's a call to action to maybe learn a little bit more. They can start filling out a form. In e-commerce, this would be somebody actually viewing your product or adding it to cart. That is more middle of the funnel. Then the bottom of the funnel is the people who are ready to opt in, who have bought, right? Now, the qualification segments that I'm talking about in this case are, basically based upon events. Did they fire an event of checkout? Did they fire an event of add to cart? Did they fire an event of add their credit card info? That would be in e-commerce. In lead-based businesses, it's a little bit harder. You won't have as many events, but typically this would be a page view. Did they click on a call to action and view a page that shows and demonstrates high intent, right? This would be kind of like a request, a phone call, or book a phone call, request a quote. So that's sort of that piece. But the endpoint is really this red dot. What are we trying to get somebody to do in this case? Now, this endpoint typically can look a little bit different, but mainly if it's an e-com, it's a purchase, or it's book a demo, or request a quote. I have watch a demo, so maybe it's like a pre-recorded VSL or demo or something like that. Or maybe you have them opt into a newsletter, or they install or download. That would be more SaaS, sort of a free trial. So really that is the endpoint that we're trying to think about. And so when we're thinking about retargeting, we're thinking about, okay, this is the event that we want to occur, but what are people doing here? So when I go to retarget somebody, I would use the logic of if they did something, if they fired an event here, but haven't fired this main event. So again, what are they doing prior to this? And what are we trying to get them to do? So again, purchase, book a demo, request, all of that. And so this is kind of what I was saying here, right? In order for somebody to convert, they sort of have to navigate through your funnel in order to do this. And if we know what this is, then we have to think backwards about what is somebody trying to do to get there, because not everybody's going to opt in. Not everybody's going to buy. We know that. So how can we create a segment of people? How can we qualify these people to put retargeting ads back in front of them? Again, that's sort of the thought process here. So the way that we need to think about retargeting is really two things. One, who are we targeting and who are we not targeting? I'll say that one more time. Who are we targeting and who are we not targeting? Really, the magic of retargeting involves exclusion lists. Basically, the easiest way to think about it is this. We want to retarget people on our ads, right? We want to target people who have initiated a checkout, right? People who have added something to their cart. But we want to exclude those people who have purchased, right? Because we don't want to spend money on the people who have already taken us up. Now, there could be something to be said, or you put those people into an upsell campaign, but that is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about this logic. So in the case of people booking a demo or requesting a quote, in Calendly, I think of as an example, like somebody who has fired, there's a lot of events when you have a Calendly embed on your page. When somebody adds a time or looks at a date, there's an event that fires. But the main event that fires when somebody actually books a phone call is called invitee meeting scheduled. So what you could do is you could retarget the people of invitee time selected, but exclude those people who have actually opted or who have booked a time. And so we're kind of always thinking about who are we targeting, who are we not, because we're going to use two audiences in our retargeting. We're going to keep our segment of who we're targeting and our segment of who we are excluding from that. So in that case, we always want to be thinking about what events that we need to be fired that are closest to this conversion, but not that conversion. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to think through this next thing of event and time since the event occurred. So what I mean by that is this. So added to cart 14 days ago, but did not buy, right? So let's just say that again, and this kind of talks about what I was referring to in the intro is, if you have a lot of folks who visit your website, you're going to be able to make really small buckets. People who added to cart 3 days ago, people who added to cart within the last 7 days, people who've initiated checkout within the last, 3 days. That might not be the case, though, if you don't have a ton of traffic. It might have to be a broad, everybody who's added to cart, initiated checkout, and added their payment info, but did not buy in the last 14 days. And I'll show you how to think about this, and I'll show you how to go build your audiences, so don't worry about that. But that is sort of the key way to think about this. Days since the event occurred. That's how you're going to make everything. And you're going to be thinking, okay, this is who I'm targeting, and then this is who I'm not. So I'll say that one more time in the case of a service-based industry. Everybody who has seen the request to quote page in the last 14 days. So the way that I would probably build the audience is request to quote page viewers last 14 days, exclude request to quote success, maybe the last 180 days. So you're kind of removing everybody who has, everybody who has fired that event. We want to just remove them off the plate. So now, in the case of somebody has opted out, you're like, okay, Jason, what if they've opted out of cookies altogether? How can we retarget them? Well, that's what I call on-platform retargeting. So let's just stick to Meta in this case. So Meta knows how long people have watched your videos if you're showing videos, and you can build retargeting audiences for those who have watched 50% of your video, 95% of your video. You can build retargeting audiences based upon people who have clicked a CTA or engaged with a post, people who have sent a message. So even if somebody has opted out of pixel-based cookies, then you can still set up these audiences on the platform where you can continue to stay in front of these people. Then there's something called the server side versus browser side. So once iOS came up with their update with iOS 14, a lot of people were able to opt out of cookies. Now, what cookies are is it is JavaScript sitting on a browser. And so basically they've enabled this browser blocking so that your website couldn't track them. Nonetheless, what Meta has moved to and all of these other ad platforms have moved to are a conversion API, and that is server-based. So when somebody takes action on your website, if they filled out their name, if they filled out their, their address or their email, what you can then do with a conversion API is send that information back to the ad platform. So whether they have a pixel or not, you can still send that information back. And in this case, let's say that we want to retarget somebody who's filled out a form, but they haven't purchased. You can still do that with Facebook Conversion API. You just take their name, their email, send that back to the Facebook platform, and then you would retarget these folks who have filled out this form but but who have not purchased or who have not booked a phone call, something like that. So this is not going to be an exhaustive piece on Facebook Conversion API. There's some website platforms that have this baked in. There's some that do not. Like I said, I'm using Kajabi. This does have it baked in. I believe that Shopify has Facebook Conversion API already implemented in it. If you use Go High Level, it already has Facebook KPI integration capabilities. So you're just going to have to check to see which website or wherever you're hosting your website actually enables this. So again, a little bit more information on targeting and not targeting. So again, who are we targeting? Who are we not? Event and days since the event occurred. So how do we exclude people? Well, really what you could do to exclude people are if they visited a specific page, if they have fired a specific event. Think of it this way. I use thank you pages on everything, and that's the example that we're going to use in this course. So if they opt into a form, I'm going to show you a little bit later. If they hit that thank you page, that is how we are going to fire our event, and we will exclude anyone who has hit that thank you page. So if I were going to set up a very simple retargeting for what I'm going to show you here coming up, we have an opt-in page and we have a thank you page. We will retarget everyone who hits this opt-in page in the last 14 days, but we will exclude everyone who has hit the thank you page, and we'll exclude that for 180 days. So that way we can know that we are retargeting folks who've hit our landing page but did not opt in. And that's just the way to think about all of this. So how are we targeting people? This is the last part on this page. Pixel retargeting versus no pixel retargeting. We just covered that. That can happen with that on platform. So how do we target people? People who have hit specific page URLs or people who have fired events. Page URLs, we're going to use in Google Tag Manager to create these events. Some events will natively push in. If you have a Shopify GA4 integration, it's going to show you, somebody's looked at an item, viewed an item, added it to cart. Those are the events that we can actually kind of target people on. And then again, if you're running a campaign where you have people messaging you, then you can retarget people based upon their messenger. And then there's something called dynamic product ads, which we will talk about in Facebook. I'm not going to show you the exhaustive piece of how to go set up a catalog or anything like that. But on Meta, we can actually put the product that they looked at back in front of them on their feed. So the way that happens is Facebook. You connect your Shopify store to your Facebook catalog, and Facebook knows who is looking at a specific item. And so because the Facebook catalog is connected to Shopify and the ads are connected to the catalog, and so when a user leaves, or I should say a shopper in this case, leaves, you can put that exact product in front of them using something called a dynamic product ad. You can do the same on Google Ads as well. I'm only going to show you how to do this on Meta though. So this is a visual representation of how to think about this. And again, I don't have TikTok on here. I just use some examples. And again, this may not be true for you. This is based upon probably a heavily trafficked website, but this is how I would think about it. And I'm not saying you have to do it, but this is a visual representation of how to think perhaps about this. So let's just say that you have a campaign where you want to have somebody sign up. This could be the same as somebody buying, okay? So the campaign is a conversion-based campaign. And let's say that one ad set, you're retargeting people who have done something within the last 1 to 2 days. So added something to cart last 2 days. Visited the request to quote page last 1 to 2 days. Then you could have another ad set where you're breaking that audience into, okay, who has done this in the last days 3 through 5? Or you could have another ad set on people who've done this and they're seeing something different on days 6 through 10. So that way, what I'm showing you down here is you could rotate different ads throughout their feed based upon days since the event occurred. So on days 1 and 2, since the event occurred, I'm going to show them these ads, days 3 through 5, days 6 through 10. Now, that could not actually be that easy for you. If you don't have a ton of people, you might have to do something like days 1 through 13. It might even be days 1 through 30. You might just have to build this scope out. What I would always recommend is build something large, and then you can continue to just whittle that down. But this is a good variation of how you would go and build that and really nest different ads inside of different ad sets. And, like on this, you could have a testimonial, right? Or testimonial carousel. And then on the next, after those 2 days pass on Meta, they would start seeing something else where maybe it's an evergreen boosted post. I like boosted posts. It's like Spark ads on TikTok. If you use them the right way, they're very, very effective. Maybe you could add in a different testimonial. Or maybe these testimonials are more along the lines of different value props that you're trying to work through. Maybe one is an internal objection. Maybe another one is an external objection. Maybe, it's a comparison ad. So this gives you the ability and the flexibility to sort of see where a person is in the user journey and then what ads you need to surface. So one thing that I should definitely mention, and this is why we're going to focus on Meta so much in this, is because when we need to be building out audiences, we have to be aware of the limitations that we have. So if you want to build out an audience on TikTok to remarket video viewers, right? Or not video viewers. If you want to retarget people who've been to your website and you want to do that on YouTube, well, then you need to have at least 1,000 people visit your website. So that's large, right? If you don't have a ton of traffic, that's a lot of traffic. And not everybody who visits is actually going to be banked into a YouTube audience. So really what I would like to start with is Facebook and Instagram, because the custom audience size is so much smaller. It needs to be 100. In fact, sometimes it can be less than that. So that's why we're going to focus all of our time and energy on Meta, because that is exactly where you should start your retargeting, because it's much easier to start your retargeting there. That said, I'm still going to show you how to set up your TikTok audiences and your YouTube. Well, YouTube, display, and search, these are all the same in Google. These are just different display networks that Google offers. So I'll show you still how to build these audiences, but just know if you don't have a ton of website traffic, you're probably only going to be limited to Facebook in the meantime. Maybe you could do Google Display. Those probably aren't going to be as effective as far as conversion, but people are going to see a ton of your images. So what I want to do now is sort of show you a few different examples of this audience exclusion and these e-com audiences. Stick with me here. So I think you can see a little bit of how this works. So what I'm going to do inside of my Facebook Business Manager is basically, I've made this very broad, by the way. I want to create an audience of all visitors last 1 day, and then all visitors last 2 days, and I can go all the way up. So I can segment this all the way up, all visitors last 10, 12, 13, 14, 30, 60, 90. That way, I could come into my ad sets and I could target basically, okay, I want to target all of the visitors who have come to my website in the last 7 days, but I'm going to exclude everybody who has contacted us. So I also need to create an audience of everybody who's contacted us in the last 180 days. Okay, then let me stick with me on this, right? So let's just say I want a different message, or a different ad set message for the people on days 8 through 14. So I have messages for them for the first 7 days that they've encountered. Then days 8 through 14, I'm going to give them a different message. And so what I would do is I would target everybody who has been to the website in the last 14 days, but I would exclude these basically. I would exclude all of these, and then I would also exclude those people who have contacted us. So I hope you understand like the thinking, the logic here. And this is going to be the same no matter what platform. You're just going to think, okay, I need to create a bunch of different audiences here. But I'm going to use these audiences also as who I'm targeting, but also as who I am excluding. And let's say that we have another group where we want to retarget somebody from 15 to 30 on days 15 through 30. So that way we would be targeting everybody here. And then we would go in and exclude these folks. Basically, we would exclude all of those. So the logic would present that we are going to be hitting days 15 through 30. And that is the way that I think that you need to be thinking about this. That is the way to think about retargeting. Now, it doesn't always have to be, like all visitors. It could be events. So added to cart last 20 days, filled out form, inviting meeting, day select. So this is going to change. Your audiences are going to change based upon your offer and your niche, and whether you're leads-based business, service-based business, whether you are SaaS or whether you are e-com. But just know that this is a structure. And last, one thing that I would mention here is I would not create an audience inside of your Facebook Ads Manager and add the exclusions there. I just don't think that gets a little clunky. So what I would just do is spend the time like going through and making these, and I'll show you how to make these a little bit later. Going through and making all of these, yeah, it's a pain in the butt to do it the first time, but once they're done, they're done. And that's kind of the nice thing about this. So the other thing that I wanted to show you, this is more ecom based. And what you might want to do is go in and basically build out all of these audiences. So page view, did they create a page view? Page view means they visited your website. And then we want to create basically 16 audiences off of that. Page view last 1 day, page view last 2 days, page view last 3 days. Then view content, add to cart, initiate checkout, add payment info, and purchase. And so let's just say that we want to retarget everybody who has initiated checkout in the last 14 days, but then we would exclude everybody who has purchased in the last 90 or something like that. I don't know. That would just be for retargeting. And so that's how I would chunk this out. I would take something like this, build out all of these audiences, and then now you have this ability to exclude one from the other, and you're not sort of conflating the exclusion audience into your Facebook audiences. Let me try to say this more clearly. I'm not creating any exclusion audiences inside of Facebook audiences. When I get to the ad set level, that is where I'm excluding people. I hope that makes sense. So again, you could do this. This is more page engagement. So did they click on something like a call to action? I think this can go up to 360 actually, if that's the case. And then messengers rendered. Did they actually send a message to your page? So, all right, let's get back into this. Let's see here. Let me escape, view, slideshow. So, okay. Now, this is the last piece on mapping out your funnel. And so what I found is sometimes this is helpful to go through and like print out and actually fill out this form. And I have a PDF document that you can download and that you can fill out. But basically, this is a practice for you to actually download, take out your pen and write down everything. Like where you're getting your top of funnel traffic, like what does your website look like? What are your calls to action? What are your landing pages? Are there any like high intent or offer pages that you have? Do you have a thank you page? What is the URL of your thank you page? Do you have multiple thank you pages? Do you have multiple URLs? Write them all down. That way, really two things. One, you have this document in front of you, but two, when you're talking with your, if you're a marketer and you're on a marketing team, you're talking with your team, you are all on the same page, you're using the same language. If you're an agency, you are talking with your clients and with your customers and you're all on the same page. That is the importance of this. If you're the business owner and you have people do this for you, you are all on the same page. And so you know what the funnel is, but you're also using a common language. Again, all of this was really born out of communication issues that I've had with either clients or students or other marketers. And this unification of language just makes it so much easier so that everybody knows like, hey, what's the endpoint? All right, what's our offer? What's our thank you page? What's the conversion? This just makes it so much easier. And on that page, we have a lot of different prompts on the back of that as well. I'm not going to show it to you, but you can download it. I think all that you need to do is click through, download it, or if it's a Google Doc, just click File, make a copy. Don't request access. I won't give it to you. So let's say right here, there's another conversion mapping document, and this is what we're going to do as well. And so this conversion mapping document, I'll show you here in a second. This is what we're going to be used to communicate with our team, with our clients, with whomever. And again, it's not a big document at all, but what it was born out of communication issues. To making sure that we're all on the same page. And this is going to help you sort of define what conversion it is, what the name is going to be in GA4, what the name is going to be in Meta, what the name is going to be in Google Ads, as well as TikTok. So I will show you that here shortly. So on this lesson, I think you'll find links below. You can go ahead and update this. This is the PDF that I was mentioning that you can download, print out, and actually fill out. And then this is the conversion mapping template that we will be leveraging here. All right, so this is the document, and what we're going to do is we're going to reference this. I just want to show you now, but we're actually going to be using this throughout the remainder of this this course. And what we're going to be using that as an example, as Grant, my business partner, has a phenomenal course on selling and the psychology. And what we're going to do is we are going to leverage that as our example. We're going to build out everything using this as an example. So what I want to do is show you real briefly highlight this and then we'll revisit this. So at the moment, I don't think we've nailed down a name for this, but we're calling it story selling for right now. And the call to action is somebody to opt in on a page. And so this is the URL where this opt-in can be found. And then when they are redirected, when they fill out a form, they're redirected to this URL. So we're going to take this URL in the next module, and we're going to build our conversion events around it. And so this is just a handy spot for you to make sure that you have everything all in one spot, because you might not just have one conversion, you might have multiple conversions. You might have a 14-day free trial if you're a SaaS company. You might have a demo. If somebody wants to book a demo, you might have a newsletter. You might have a free ebook. So there's a lot of different little components to this. And so this is just a good spot to really map out and document this. So again, we will use this document for our GA4. We will use this for Meta. We'll use this for TikTok. And then even, I put in a spot for LinkedIn if you're doing selling and remarketing and retargeting there. We're not talking about LinkedIn in this course, unfortunately. So let's just go back to this and we will, there we go. We will wrap this up. So again, at the end of the day, this is really about thinking. And this is the majority of this module is basically all of the thinking that we need to do. We need to be thinking about the bottom of the funnel up. We need to be thinking about who we're targeting and who we're not, because that is the logic that is going to carry us forward and really give you the freedom to spend money on the people you need to be spending money on. If you forget your exclusion audiences, you don't want to be wasting your money, wasting your hard-earned dollars on retargeting people who have already opted in, or retargeting people who have engaged but not done something else. You just want to be thinking through this. This is a logic game. The nice thing about this is once you have all these segments built, then it becomes a game of marketing, right? You can create cool ads. You can really spend more time on that. But it doesn't matter how good your ads are if you're targeting the wrong people or just burning and wasting money. But I'm excited that hopefully that you kind of get the idea that this is a logic game and we have to think about this the right way. And once we think about this the right way, it's going to be the same for every single platform. And even if the UI is updated on this or that, we're always thinking, okay, who am I targeting? Who am I not? I'm targeting the people days since the event occurred. And really that's it. So what I want to do is we are going to spend time in the next module actually building this out. We're going to get in GA4 and we're going to get into Google Tag Manager. And that might look different from you on how you actually connect that to your website, but the build out is going to be essentially the same. So yeah, I like this. There are some guided questions here, right? Take that PDF, download it, and fill out. There's questions on the back that I think they're really good questions just to be concerned with. So before you go out and you build out all of your remarketing campaigns, just make sure that you know what you're trying to optimize towards, what that conversion is, what that endpoint is, and that's really going to free up a lot of your thinking. All right, that is it for Module 1. I will see you in Module 2. Thanks.